Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and this is an interpretation of the astrology birth chart of Donald Trump, the present President of the United States of America. Now, it's actually part of a three-part presentation on Ketu, the South Node of the Moon. So the first part was where I told you the energy that Ketu, the South Node of the Moon, brings to your birth chart and your life. The second part was about the astronomy of the nodes of the moon and the myth which gives great understanding into their nature and power. Now, I'm choosing Donald Trump as an example to do with a Ketu South Node presentation because he has Ketu conjunct his moon. Well, that's not totally unusual, but he has, in addition, Rahu, the North Node, conjunct his Sun. So that's getting a bit exceptional. And thirdly, he has what's called Kalsarpa Yoga. In other words, all the planets are enclosed in the axis of the nodes of the moon, the North Node and South Node. So all the planets are on one side of the chart. Now, with a person with a high spiritual energy, that's fine. In fact, you can help them in their spiritual growth, dealing with that difficulty. But basically, a person with a low spiritual energy, Kalsarpa Yoga, is divisive. It projects badness onto other people. And for half of every lunar month, the moon is on its own, unsupported, outside the rest of all the other planets, which leads to a sort of mental unsupportedness. So we have three coincidences already: Ketu conjunct moon in the birth chart, Rahu conjunct sun, and the Kalsarpa Yoga. But it's actually bigger than that. You see, he came to power in 2016. Well, there, by infeasible coincidence, Kalsarpa Yoga was in the heavens. So we have the chart of the presidential candidate having a difficult and divisive birth chart mirrored by the heavens exactly. And in fact, there were two other very difficult indicators in the heavens in 2016. So it's necessary for us to sort of say, well, what does all this mean? And we've got to remember there's a very difficult eclipse on the 21st of August 2017, right on Donald Trump's ascendant. And the Kalsarpa Yoga reasserts itself in the heavens after that. Divisiveness, aggression, mental instability. What will it mean for the president? What will it mean for America? What will it mean for the world? So let's just look a bit more at these features in Donald Trump's birth chart. And I'll focus first of all on Rahu conjunct Sun. Now, his birth chart is in the blog post associated with this video. Now, he has Rahu very closely conjunct his Sun in the 10th house of career and standing in the world. So that's very, 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 very good for worldly success and status. But to have this Rahu conjunct Sun so close is the chart of one born under an eclipse. And the big indication of someone born under eclipse is that their worldly identity is cut off from their soul. Their worldly identity is a fabrication created to cover an inner emptiness, a sense of no identity, a sense of not being valued and not being supported. And so to cover that, they're driven by Rahu, the North Node, conjunct the Sun. Ambition, ambition, ambition. So, whereas Ketu, the South Node, conjunct your Sun will mean that the Sun energy is insubstantial in your birth chart and in your life. Father won't be there for you. You won't have any sort of substantial sense of self. And you'll need to spiritually work on that to make a success of your life. Rahu conjunct the Sun means the crisis in personal identity caused by being born at the time of an eclipse makes the person go big time for worldly success to cover up their feelings of personal inadequacy. They are driven to make a huge mark on the world. Now, Rahu conjunct Sun gives a person clear direction and ambition. And we need clear direction. We need proper ambition to succeed in what we came here to do. But not in the sort of driven, engulfing way that someone with Rahu conjunct Sun can do it. And so they go for success. They go for high social status. And Rahu conjunct the Sun is an indicator for success and high social status. They go for fame. They go for achievement. That will fill a gap, they declare. But what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world and suffer the loss of his soul? King Alexander the Great conquered the known world and died weeping that there were no more worlds to conquer. And he killed tens of thousands. Adolf Hitler killed millions. So the impurity of Rahu, when it's Rahu's conjunct the Sun, creates driven over ambition, selfishness, rigid dogmatic ideas, dark psychological tendencies of projection and scapegoating, and of course total denial about the truths of the self. And Rahu has an adventurous nature. Rahu loves surprises, he loves sudden events. Ooh, let's stage a bombing raid, let's stage an invasion. But they're not real events, they're actually illusions magically forced to become reality by this chameleon dark magician, an apparent reality in the media and people's minds. And the Rahu Sun energy breaks taboos, loves to break boundaries. It wants to be unique and noticed and break tradition, so as to repair the original wound of not having loving notice from mother, of not having a sense of their own internal divine son, the divine king internally. So, to compensate, they're driven to be unique, to get noticed, to break tradition, all to repair the original wound. You see, the sun is the divine king. Rahu is the thief. They're inimical. And so such a person can be the genius with double standards, who loves to think outside the box, who sneaks his way into power through cheating and hiding the real truth, and who looks honest and convincing to those who are deceived. But he doesn't just have Rahu conjunct Sun, he has Ketu conjunct Moon. And that's why I'm doing this case study, because this video is part 3 of the Ketu presentation, Ketu, the south node of the Moon. Now the Moon represents our mothering, our mother, our emotions and consciousness arising therefrom. So to have Ketu conjunct the Moon can give intuition, even psychic powers. But the whole point is it becomes florid, even insane in the worst cases. And all this issues from one's experience of mothering in this life and from one's experience of mothering in past lives. And so that difficult psychic material causes overwhelm and confusion and results in outburst, irrationality, fear and turbulence. Spiritual management of the consciousness of a Ketu Moon person is essential to gain continuity and stability and not being sucked into the miasma of phantom illusions. And of course we all need to manage our consciousness, become aware of our shadow and transcend our shadow. That was the subject of the part 2 video on Ketu about the astronomy and myth. So such a person really must try and achieve stability, because otherwise the people in their lives will suffer so much. Their family members will go through mental torture. The people they work with will be degraded and the subject of torsion. And if you're the president, the whole country will be whipped up by your psychic instability. You see, Ketu creates critical nature. And that critical nature creates confusion, scatter, overanalysis, and turmoil in the mind and emotions. In fact, there's great potential for criticising self, but you ignore that, you project it all outwards onto minorities, onto other countries. And so, to have Ketu conjunct Moon and Rahu conjunct Sun, as well as Kalsarpa Yoga, would call for a very high spiritual consciousness to manage. And the difficulty is, the man hasn't got that. So what's going to happen? Thank you.